With agentic AI, we can now have an interface that can connect multiple systems and move work across applications. And I think this is where the big jump in performance can happen. As with any tool, people who use it better will get the most benefit. But what I'm observing now is AI doesn't replace jobs, but it replaces tasks. What is a task bundle inside this job title, and how much of that bundle can AI absorb or accelerate or do differently? Not all AI is equally helpful. So what we found, if AI is unhelpful, employees' stress level, frustration go up.
Welcome everyone. This is the AI at Scale podcast by Schneider Electric. My name is Gosia Górska and I'm the host of this program. Today I have a pleasure welcoming Tamilla Triantoro. Hi Tamilla. Lovely to have you. So Tamilla is an associate professor of business analytics and information systems at School of Business at Quinnipiac University. She's a globally recognized expert in human AI collaboration, generative AI, and the future of work. She has also co-authored a book, Converging Minds, The Creative Potential of Collaborative AI, which explores what happens when human intuition meets machine intelligence, and how people and AI can co-innovate, co-create, and make better decisions together. So in today's conversation, we'll talk about effective human-AI collaboration, also what AI trends may be underestimated today, and what it means to be skilled in an AI-driven workplace. So I'm very happy to have you, Tamilla.
Thank you for having me.
Let's jump into the first question. So, your book, Converging Minds, explores how humans and AI can complement each other. How do you define human-AI collaboration?
Yeah, so for me, human AI collaboration is pretty simple. So humans and AI share the work in a way that makes the outcome better. And when I say collaboration, I mean a workflow. So the human sets the purpose, sets the standards, and stays responsible for the final call. And AI, of course, helps by expanding speed and options. And this is actually why Alexandra Przegalinska and I started writing Converging Minds back in 2023. So we experimented with early models, and the goal was to see what type of intellectual work humans and AI can do together. And when I say early models, even Gemini did not exist yet back then. So the point was to see what AI could realistically accomplish when you treat AI as a collaborator. And as we work on a book, we came up with 4 different modalities. So the first one was field expert. So AI was helping us in background knowledge, finding context, support the work. And the second modality was idea generator. So we used it to get new concepts, maybe new angles, some new viewpoints. And the third one was the critic. So the critic evaluated its own output, but also our outputs. This is actually my favorite modality, even still up until now, bouncing ideas off as a critical partner. And we also use AI as style amplifier. I think a lot of people use it this way as well, to make sure that everything is written in one voice or for particular persona. So since then, models have advanced a lot, but I believe these 4 roles still work today. So AI generates, it edits, it critiques, it informs. Humans decide what matters and what's important. So my definition of human AI collaboration is a structured co-working where AI expands capability, but humans keep ownership and purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great overview. Thank you for this. And as you mentioned, there are these 4 types of different types of collaboration. Also, would require different prompting and different skills. So I was curious to know from you, because on your Substack you comment a lot about the trends since already some time. As you mentioned, 2023 was the year when your book was published. Since then, which of the trends related to AI you think may be underestimated, maybe overlooked by business leaders and by basically businesses?
Yeah, so I write a weekly blog on Substack, and I explore the three things in AI that I found interesting during that particular week. And well, it's called Three Things AI as well, because I usually cover three developments. So right now, and rightfully so, the big headline is agentic AI. And things are changing fast. We all look for automation for certain tasks. And agentic AI provides the answer. So it is no longer just a chatbot, but a system that can actually do things on its own. And these are all fascinating developments. But what often gets lost during these conversations is, and if you don't mind, I'll list them as three things exactly as a blog goes. So the first one is trust. So historically, trust shaped technology adoption, and it is true up until now. When people trust a system, they use it more and they rely on it with more confidence. But trust doesn't just appear. Like it's not like we can give people a tool and they start trusting it immediately. Particularly in the workplace, employees may resist AI because they don't trust the outputs. Maybe they find AI model not transparent. Maybe they're not sure who is accountable when the system is wrong. So one of the important things to me is a trust issue. And I would say trust also associated with the fear of knowledge transfer. Like when employees interact with AI through prompting and correction, we are also transferring expertise. And people actually wonder what happens to our value when the system starts performing parts of what once made us indispensable. So the first and foremost to me is trust. And the second, under discussed shift in AI, that AI doesn't only change productivity, but it also changes human behavior at work. So track ROI, we track speed, efficiency, hours saved, but there is also behavioral cost. High adopters right now can handle multiple projects because AI seemingly makes it easy, like to do the first pass on things, but the oversight burden doesn't disappear. So we end up supervising so many moving parts at once, and that can push burnout up. So that's an important part of it as well. And so we have super workers, employees who work really hard and seemingly do so much, but the question is for how long? And the third piece, and this is actually part of our research that we've been working with Alexandra Brzegalinska and the Human Race Research Group. We are studying what happens when people interact with unhelpful AI. So by default, we think that our AI models are there to help us to do our work, but not all AI is equally helpful. So what we found, if AI is unhelpful, employees' stress level, frustration go up. People start developing specific negotiating tactics, sometimes even jailbreaking attempts. So what we observed is people, when they interact with unhelpful AI, they experience the same things as they would do when they interact with an unhelpful, antagonistic coworker. So that's AI at the workplace, not only the productivity engine, but also a design issue. We have to focus on trust and human behavior and AI model behavior at the same time.
So, what you're saying is that we are maybe overly focused on how AI is doing the job and how we can implement AI, how to basically make it successful. But we are overlooking the part of the designing of the whole infrastructure of how the work is being done and how we are collaborating with AI. And you mentioned right now, but also in some recent talks, about being replaceable or not replaceable at work. So there is like the statement that is being repeated everywhere that you will not be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by someone who is very good in using AI tools. So how do you see this in 2026? Is it still true or has this changed? Because we also heard that there are some issues for especially junior people entering the job market, that maybe there are not enough jobs for them. How do you see this?
And as with any tool, people who use it better will get the most benefit. But what I'm observing now is AI doesn't replace jobs, but it replaces tasks. So instead of asking, will this role disappear? I have a more practical question. What is a task bundle inside this job title, and how much of that bundle can AI absorb or accelerate or do differently? So there is a simple formula to, we actually published about this in an article last year. So you break your job into tasks and then estimate which ones are easy to automate and which ones require human judgment. So if the job has more tasks that can be automated, perhaps there is a risk of AI doing the majority of it, or perhaps it's a benefit, right? So time can be released to do something else. And if there are a lot of tasks that require human input, these tasks will stay and therefore the job will be less affected. And the second part of your question was about junior roles. And of course, being an educator, it is a very important topic for me as well. And for junior roles, when I look at it through that lens of tasks as opposed to roles, I'm less worried because juniors adapt faster. They can be more flexible. They learn new tools quickly. They tend to treat AI as normal part of work. So what changes is the actual nature of junior work, because companies, organizations redesigning these processes maybe poorly at the moment, and they're removing the learning path. So traditionally, historically, junior roles were more like apprenticeships, right? So a person to work and they learn through all these processes. But now it's a little different because junior role gets on a higher level or maybe gets reduced to AI output checker, and this is a long-term talent problem. So on the bright side, I think current students and junior employees can turn this moment into an advantage. And my recommendation is to my students and to everybody in this position is just to learn how to learn with AI, basically use AI to accelerate learning. And I think this can become a differentiating factor.
I see. And from what you're saying, I also understand that we are actually changing what it means to be skilled at work. So if we look at the identity of workers today, how do you see this shift? What does it mean today to be skilled?
It's a great question because people right now are not only curious about AI or actively involved, they're also emotionally alert. So I just read a recent Indeed survey of job seekers, and AI adoption came up as a number one worry, even above burnout. And so there is some paradox in it because AI can speed things up and make so many things easier, yet it may give people burnout and anxiety. So when we talk about skills, I think AI is quietly changing this definition. And in many roles, we are moving from creators, or, we used to start tasks from scratch. Now we are moving to directing. So we start with a draft or an analysis, and that can be generated by the system. And then our skills show up as what question we ask, what errors we can catch, what we can refine, what we can refuse to accept. So this may sound straightforward, but I think anyone who has done serious review work knows that it is not easy to be on top of your fact checking, output checking all the time. So I think the center of gravity right now is moving towards judgment. And in this economy, skilled increasingly means you have domain knowledge. Of course, we do need this domain knowledge expertise, but we're also selective as to how to direct the model and what outputs to accept. So I think the advantage now is shifting. So people should start treating AI output as a starting point, not as an answer.
So that's a good, I think, advice to everyone to treat it really as an assistant that can help you, but you are the one who is still accountable. Which brings us to the next question about Gen AI tools and automated workflows. How do you see the right balance between autonomy and human supervision, especially when AI is supporting us in creative tasks or in the task that requires decision making?
Yeah, so using AI now is different than even last year. And we are going through this dramatic change from AI as a chatbot to AI as an agent that can perform tasks on our behalf. And I listened to Mustafa Suleyman podcast, the CEO of Microsoft AI, and he said earlier this year that AI is a fourth class of being. So it's not a human, not a tool, not nature. So when AI enters a workflow, executives have to learn a new kind of leadership skill. We are not just managing people and processes. We are managing an additional participant in the organizational thinking. And back to autonomy versus supervision. I think it's important to focus also on delegation and accountability. So with a chatbot, the main risk is a wrong answer. And we already touched upon filtering and verifying outputs and calibrating trust. But with an agent, the bigger risk is a wrong chain of actions. So what balance looks like in practice is, I think, very similar to how we think about decision rights in organizations. So in organizations, we don't give every employee exact same authority. We generally define who can explore, who can approve, who can sign, who can execute. So agentic AI needs the same treatment. And in creative and strategic work, I would like a certain split. In creative work, let AI explore freely because exploration is inexpensive and reversible. Strategy, on the other hand, can be expensive and irreversible. So supervision is required at this point. But supervision is also not a final checkpoint. It is a design feature. So you allow agents to execute. You should keep permissions narrow, at least right now, and make override easy. So in creative tasks, let AI explore, and strategic tasks, supervise and adjust.
I see. And I really like the framing and the difference that you are drawing between strategic decisions and more creative tasks. I think this is really like something that we can observe in our daily lives, that indeed there are different tasks where AI can support us in different ways. And we should also have different expectations and maybe, as you said, different level of trust and different architecture around this so that we can use AI, but also limit the risks of any kind. And I was wondering, as you mentioned, you are covering a lot of AI topics. You also are following different kinds of research in the field. For you personally, where do you find AI to be the most valuable assistant for you?
So personally, I think AI right now we're going through this very interesting time of agentic, and AI brings value by acting as true assistant across tools, not just inside one app. So for years, computers and software helped us, but in a modular way. So we use one tool to write, another to analyze, another to schedule, another to browse the internet. But each system does a narrow task very well, but it's our responsibility as a human to stitch everything together. So with agentic AI, we can now have an interface that can connect multiple systems and move work across applications. And I think this is where the big jump in performance can happen, especially in large organizations where work is fragmented across various platforms. So now when you look at jobs through that lens, it points to the same thing that we have been discussing today. AI is less likely to take a job, but it's more likely to reorganize the tasks inside it. So some work becomes automated and a lot of it becomes accelerated, but in many roles, the job shifts. from producing everything yourself to supervising a workflow that includes AI. And I think perhaps maybe this is what a good day at work looks like. So less time spent chasing updates and formatting and correcting errors, but more time spent on decision making and actually meaningful work that people enjoy. So that's where I see AI can be very helpful. It's a bright note for me. If AI can mean more space for problem solving for us, better coaching, collaboration, things that people do well and enjoy doing.
I see. Thank you so much for sharing this. My personal view on this is very similar because I find myself very well into the kind of a teacher or leader persona where I can correct the outcomes that are produced by AI. So maybe this is the area where we can find actually a lot of joy and a lot of creative support, but also a place where we can critically look at our own ideas and try to combine the both propositions. So my last question, Tamilla, would be generally how to best prepare for this AI-driven workplace of the future.
So a great question. And I would say keep learning and keep exploring because there are so many tools and so many interesting things going on. And I would also say embrace technologies as I believe new capabilities can be unlocked, new possibilities for all of us in the nearest future and beyond.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing this and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
And to everyone who's listening and watching us, thank you for staying with us. This was the AI at Scale podcast by Schneider Electric, and you can find the next episodes on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube. Thank you.